My name is Mia Callahan, and I'm 28 years old. I used to think legacy was something you inherited, like a piece of land or an old watch. But now I know better. Legacy is something you fight for, and sometimes you bleed for it. Growing up, I lived and breathed my family's business, Callahan & Co. It wasn't just a job, it was our pride, our identity. My grandmother, Florence Callahan, built the company from nothing. She was legendary. Graceful under pressure, commanding in a crisis, and fiercely loyal to every vendor and client who crossed her path. As a little girl, I'd follow her around venues, watching her turn chaos into elegance. While other kids were playing dress-up, I was learning how to organize a 300-guest wedding in under 48 hours. After college, I came straight back to Charleston. I didn't hesitate. I knew where I belonged. By my family's side, building the next chapter of the company that built me. Over 6 years, I climbed every rung of the ladder. I started in logistics, grunts and spreadsheets. I worked weekends, holidays, no complaints. Slowly, I earned their trust. I became head of operations by merit, not by blood. My mother, Evelyn Callahan, may have signed my checks, but I earned my place. At least I thought I did. It started like a crack in the foundation, small, easy to ignore. Uncle Derek, my mother's brother, had always been the money guy. Calm, calculating, loyal to no one but numbers. A few months ago, he started bringing his daughter, Claire, into meetings. No title, no purpose, just there. Claire had no experience in event planning. Zero. She'd gone to fashion school for 2 semesters, dropped out, then spent the next 3 years building an online persona as an event aesthetic influencer. Her backyard bridal shower went viral on TikTok, and suddenly everyone in the office was fawning over her. "She's the future," Uncle Derek said. "She has vision," my mom echoed. I didn't say anything. Not at first. I didn't care about being the face of the company. Let Claire take selfies with the cake table. I was the one making sure the cake showed up on time. But then came the Jensen account, a corporate contract with a multi-million-dollar potential. I worked for months to secure it. I built the pitch, sat in boardrooms, charmed executives, negotiated every clause. When Mr. Jensen signed the dotted line, he shook my hand and said, "You're the reason we chose Callahan." I was riding that high until the marketing team released the official announcement. There it was, Claire's face, front and center, in full color gloss on every brochure and social media platform. My name? Nowhere. I stared at the flyer like it had punched me in the gut. That night, I stayed late in the office, trying to finish the logistics plan for a 3-day retreat Jensen had requested. Around 9 p.m., Bradley, my best friend since college, showed up with Thai takeout. "You look like you're about to marry your laptop," he said, setting the food down. I barely looked up. I have 60 hotel rooms to coordinate and a caterer threatening to back out because Claire changed the menu again. Bradley raised an eyebrow. "Wait, Claire's changing menus now?" I sighed. "Apparently she's our visual consultant, whatever the hell that means." He sat down across from me, pulling out chopsticks. "You need to get out, take a walk, or scream into a pillow, or both." I shook my head. "Can't. The Jensen team lands tomorrow." There was a pause. Then he said, "You know your uncle's been rerouting vendor contracts through a separate firm?" I stopped typing. "What?" "Yeah. Boutique financial firm out of Savannah. Guess who works there? Claire's boyfriend." I felt my stomach flip. Bradley leaned in. "I think they're setting you up. Quietly. Strategically." The next few days were a blur. Meetings I usually led were rescheduled without me. Notes went missing. Vendors I'd nurtured for years were suddenly saying they were redirected by Claire or Uncle Derek. Then Evelyn, my mother, called a last-minute strategy session. Bradley warned me not to go in alone. "You need a witness," he said. "Something's off." But I still believed my mother wouldn't blindside me. I was wrong. The main conference room was too quiet when I walked in. Evelyn, Uncle Derek, and Claire were already seated. There were only 3 chairs. My usual seat? Gone. Claire smiled. "Hey, Mia, cute shoes." I ignored her. "What's this meeting about?" Uncle Derek cleared his throat. "Mia, we've been reviewing company alignment, and after careful thought, we've decided to restructure leadership." I stared. What does that mean? Evelyn folded her hands, voice cold and polished. Claire will be stepping into a co-director role alongside you, for now. Claire chimed in. You know, to balance operations with brand. I built that brand, I said sharply, from nothing. And we're grateful, Derek said, like a snake in a tie. But you've been a bit overextended. Clients are asking for fresher energy. Evelyn leaned forward. You'll transition into a consulting role. Limited scope, flexible hours. My chest tightened. You're sidelining me. We're evolving, Mia. No, I said, standing. You're betraying me. Claire rolled her eyes. God, dramatic much? I looked at my mother, waiting, hoping. But she didn't flinch. You're going to regret this, I said quietly. She didn't answer. I walked out of that building with my head high, but my heart in pieces. I sat in my car for over an hour, staring at nothing. Then my phone buzzed. Bradley. Well? Me. They fired me. There was a pause. Then he replied, You okay? I looked out the windshield at the city I'd helped build celebrations in. The streets felt different now, colder. Me. No, but I will be. Because what they don't know is that I've been building something of my own, and I'm going to take back what's mine. And I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there on the hardwood floor of my apartment, still in the clothes I was fired in, surrounded by half-eaten takeout and echoing silence. My mind played the meeting over and over. Claire's smug little grin, Derek's rehearsed lines, my mother's cold detachment. They didn't even blink. I had devoted 6 years of my life to Callahan & Co. and missed birthdays, skipped vacations, pulled 18-hour days. I bled for that business, and they tossed me aside like a liability. But as the hours crawled by, the devastation slowly burned itself down into something else. Not sadness, clarity. They hadn't just fired me, they'd underestimated me. And that was their biggest mistake. By sunrise, I knew what I had to do. I texted Bradley one word, coffee. He didn't reply with anything but a thumbs-up emoji. 20 minutes later, we were sitting across from each other at a small cafe just off King Street. He looked like he hadn't slept either. You look like hell, he said, sliding over a black coffee and a toasted bagel. Compliments this early? I muttered. He studied me. So, they actually did it. I nodded. And you're not crying or throwing things, which means I'm done waiting for them to do the right thing, I said quietly. I've already started something. Quietly. Carefully. Bradley blinked. Wait, you're serious? I filed paperwork for my own company 6 weeks ago. LLC, EIN, everything. His eyes widened. You've been planning this? I didn't want to, but I felt it coming. I just didn't think they'd move this fast. He leaned in. What's it called? Blue Ivy Events. Bradley whistled low. Damn, sounds sleek. I've already talked to Tamara, Jules, and Marco. They said they'd switch the moment I went independent. He grinned. And the Jensen account? I'm meeting his assistant tomorrow, quietly, off the record. His face turned serious. They're going to come for you. I know. Then what are you going to do? I looked him straight in the eyes. Outwork them. The following days were a blur, but a controlled one. I wasn't spiraling. I was moving. I sat at my kitchen table and built out a project timeline, launched a minimalist website, designed a clean deck with Bradley's help, created a private client list, and sent out carefully worded feelers. If I were to build a boutique event firm focused on intentional design and high-touch service, would that be something you'd be interested in? The responses were immediate. I thought you'd never ask. We've been waiting for this. Yes, I hated how messy things have gotten since Claire showed up. My inbox blew up with vendors wanting to join. Florists, photographers, even a pastry chef from Atlanta who had driven 4 hours for one of our weddings. Word was spreading, and fast. Which is exactly why I wasn't surprised when I pulled into my driveway 3 nights later and saw her. Evelyn. Sitting on the hood of her Lexus, arms crossed, hair pinned back in her signature tight bun. She looked like she was here for a magazine interview, not a damage control intervention. Mia, she said flatly. "We need to talk." I walked right past her and unlocked my door. "No, you need to leave." She followed me inside. "I understand you're upset." "Upset?" I spun around. "You stabbed me in the back and handed the knife to Claire." Her expression hardened. "We didn't stab you. We made a business decision." "No," I said. "You made a mistake." Evelyn paced the entryway like she was trying to find the words. "I've heard rumors, clients talking, vendors pulling out." My turn to raise an eyebrow. "Gee, wonder why?" "You're trying to dismantle what your grandmother built." That hit me in the gut. "I'm not dismantling anything," I said quietly. "I'm rebuilding it, with integrity. You're poaching clients they're leaving on their own, because the minute you replaced value with vanity, they realized who the real backbone of that company was." She went quiet for a beat. Then, "You're making a scene." I gave her a tired laugh. "No, Mom, I'm building a business. One that actually means something." And then I pointed to the door. "You can go now." The next morning, I opened my inbox and found it. Subject: Cease and desist from Callahan & Company's legal department, signed by Uncle Derek himself. It accused me of client solicitation, misuse of proprietary systems, and brand dilution. Every word was a scare tactic, designed to make me flinch. I forwarded it to Bradley. He called 2 minutes later. "They're bluffing," he said. "Everything you've done is legal. You haven't used their files, and you didn't sign a non-compete." "But it's not about legality," I said. "It's about pressure. They're hoping I'll crawl back." He was quiet. "I won't," I added. "They drew first blood." Bradley let out a long breath. "So what now?" I stood at my window, looking out at the city I once helped decorate. Light up, celebrate. I go harder. By the end of that week, Blue Ivy Events had 5 soft commitments and 2 full bookings. One of them was a local tech startup whose CEO told me, "Honestly, I fired Callahan after Claire ghosted on 2 walkthroughs." Claire apparently was in over her head, and it was showing. Tamara texted me, "If you're building something, I want in." I called her that night. "Why me?" I asked. "You've been with my family for years." She replied without missing a beat, "Because your grandmother once told me, Mia has the mind and the heart, the others just have the name." I didn't cry then, but I did later. That weekend, I met quietly with Mr. Jensen's assistant, Tessa, at a bakery outside town. We chatted like old friends, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. She was weighing me, measuring me against the storm she'd heard was coming. After half an hour, she said, "Mr. Jensen is very unhappy with how things have been handled lately." I nodded. "He believes in loyalty, but he also believes in performance." I met her gaze. "All I ask is one chance. I won't let him down." She didn't say anything right away, but as she gathered her things, she slipped me a card. "Tuesday, noon, his office, keep it quiet." That night, I sat on my couch, alone, with a glass of wine and my laptop open to my grandmother's favorite quote, typed in clean serif font on my desktop background. "Legacy isn't given. It's earned." I wasn't there yet, but I could feel it. I was on my way. The cease and desist letter didn't scare me. It ignited me. They thought they were warning me off, that I'd panic, fold, maybe come crawling back with apologies and second guesses. But instead of flinching, I filed the email away under a new folder on my desktop labeled Fuel. Then I opened up the Blue Ivy Events site, took a deep breath, and clicked Publish. It was live. The soft launch was simple: a homepage with a clear message, a contact form, and a single statement written in clean black serif. Intentional experiences, purposeful planning, events with soul, led by Mia Callahan. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't post about it on my personal account. I just let it exist. By lunch, my inbox had 6 inquiries. By dinner, it had 32. The messages poured in from all directions: vendors, former clients, even some people I didn't know but had heard whispers about the split. "We were devastated when you left Callahan. Please tell us you're available." "Saw your new site. Let's talk. Need a planner who actually shows up." Claire screwed up our last walkthrough. You in? I sat back in my chair and just smiled. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't bitter. It was real. They saw me. That night, Bradley came over with a bottle of cheap champagne. To burning it all down, he said, popping the cork. To rebuilding better, I said, raising my glass. He tapped his flute against mine. Let's make them sweat. And we did. Over the next 10 days, I worked like I had something to prove. Because I did. We secured our first 3 official contracts. 1 wedding, 1 corporate launch party, and 1 high-profile gala for a local arts foundation. I reached out to Jules, the florist who'd worked with Callahan for 15 years. She replied in under 5 minutes, Mia, wherever you go, I go. Tamara from Lux Linen Rentals? Same. Marco, the head decorator who once called Claire a walking Pinterest board with no idea how lighting works? He was thrilled to join. I didn't have the Callahan name anymore, but I had something better, trust. The real turning point came when I met with Mr. Jensen. He greeted me at the door to his office, firm handshake, no small talk. I've heard things, he said as we sat down. I imagine you've heard both sides, I replied evenly. He raised an eyebrow. Claire said you quit because you couldn't handle the pressure. I snorted. Claire can't handle her own calendar. He cracked a smile, just barely. I opened my tablet and walked him through my pitch, a winter gala concept themed around elevated Southern elegance. I had renderings, floor plans, timeline breakdowns, even sample lighting designs and guest flow strategies. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. You're not just prepared, you're hungry. I've been underestimated my entire life, I said. This time I won't let anyone write my story for me. He nodded slowly. You're hired, entirely. No collaboration with Callahan. This is yours, start to finish. I blinked. Seriously? He smiled. Let's see what you can do. The moment I left his office, I sat on the curb and screamed into my hands, half joy, half release. Then I called Bradley. They gave me the gala. He whooped so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Yes, the Jensen Gala? As in the gala? I laughed. That one. We're going to war, aren't we? Not war, I said. Domination. It didn't take long for word to reach Callahan and company. Evelyn called 2 days later. No hello, no how are you? You're being vindictive. I'm being successful, I replied. You're deliberately targeting our clients. Your clients are reaching out to me. I haven't cold called a single one. Her tone turned cold. You're tearing this family apart. No, Mom, you did that. When you let them erase me. She hung up. Then came the smear campaign. Claire started posting inspirational Instagram stories that were thinly veiled digs at me. Some people will copy your style, your words, even your work, but they can't copy your energy, #stay original. Jealousy is loud. Class is silent. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. But I made one strategic move. I filed a federal trademark for Blue Ivy Events TM, bought every version of the domain I could think of, and locked down the social handles. No one was taking this from me. Then, something I hadn't expected, Claire slipped up. A photographer messaged me saying Claire had double-booked a Saturday and ghosted a bride 2 days before her wedding. The poor woman had to hire a different planner last minute. And that planner was now asking if she could freelance under Blue Ivy. One misstep led to another. Inquiries were down at Callahan. Vendors were quietly dropping out. Review sites started showing signs of discontent. Disorganized, looks good on social, but chaotic behind the scenes. My event planner couldn't remember my name. Meanwhile, Blue Ivy was thriving. Then came a conversation I'll never forget. Tamara invited me to tea. We sat under a pergola in her backyard, warm breeze and jasmine in the air. She looked me square in the eye and said, You know your grandmother wanted you to take over Callahan, right? I froze. What? She told me, clear as day, said you had the backbone and the heart. Claire had presentation, but you had leadership. My throat tightened. She never told me that. She didn't want you to feel pressure, Tamara said. She believed in earning it, but she always knew. Later that night, I dug out the dusty box of my grandmother's letters. There it was. A lavender envelope, my name in her looping handwriting. I opened it with shaking fingers. My dearest Mia, if you're reading this, it means something has shifted. It means the path got hard. I hope you know by now you were always meant to lead. Legacy isn't handed down like china or silver. It's earned, and you've already earned it 10 times over. Keep going, baby girl. The world needs your fire. I sat on the floor and cried for the first time since it all began. Not because I was sad, but because I was finally free. Success has a way of echoing, louder than you ever expect. The week after the Jensen Gala announcement, I started getting calls, not emails, calls, florists, venues, photographers, vendors I hadn't even worked with in years. Word was spreading that Blue Ivy was the real deal, that I was taking the best parts of Callahan & Co., the structure, the relationships, the soul, and leaving behind the chaos, the ego, and the vanity projects. I wasn't chasing clout, I was chasing excellence, and people noticed. Bradley and I were in my living room, surrounded by empty coffee cups, spreadsheets, and lighting layouts, when my phone buzzed again. He raised an eyebrow. "That your new assistant?" "Venue partner in Greenville," I said, scanning the message. "They want to offer me a block rate on spring weddings. That's our 5th venue in 2 weeks." Bradley grinned. "Remind me again how many Callahan still has." 3, I said, not bothering to hide my smirk. "But rumor has it one of them is considering pulling out." He leaned forward. "You realize what this means, right? You're not just rising, you're displacing them." That word hit me. Displacing. I hadn't set out to take anyone down. But when people try to bury you, sometimes the only option is to grow taller than the ground they dug. I made my boldest move that Friday. For weeks, I'd been quietly talking to Gerald Barnes, a retired events executive who'd built one of the Southeast's most respected planning firms before stepping away last year. His company still had assets, venues, rentals, an elite client list, but he was looking to sell, and only to someone with backbone and soul. I made him an offer, and he said yes. With that acquisition, Blue Ivy tripled in size overnight. I now had staff, staging inventory, and 2 premium venues under my control. Venues that had long-standing partnerships with Callahan, or had. On Monday morning, I sent out a press release. Blue Ivy Events is proud to announce the acquisition of Signature South Events and the expansion into Greenville and Savannah markets. I didn't mention Callahan, but I didn't need to. The story wrote itself. At 9:17 a.m., my phone rang. It was Evelyn. "I see your little company made the paper," she said flatly. "It's not so little anymore," I replied. "You're moving fast. Too fast. You're the one who told me ambition was a virtue." There was silence. Then, "You're dismantling everything your grandmother built." "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm honoring what she built. I'm just not doing it under your roof anymore." Her voice dropped. "You need to be careful." That wasn't a warning. It was a threat dressed in motherly concern. But I didn't flinch. "You should be the one being careful," I said. "You're the one with dwindling clients and vendors walking out." And then I hung up. The Jensen Gala was approaching, and it was going to be everything. Live jazz under chandeliers strung from magnolia trees, locally sourced catering, custom floral arches made from white orchids and eucalyptus. We'd built a narrative, one about rebirth, elegance, and Southern excellence, and every detail told that story. 2 days before the gala, Tessa, Mr. Jensen's assistant, pulled me aside during a walkthrough. "He's inviting press," she said. "Big names, Southern Living, Business Weekly, even a few influencers." I swallowed hard. "Good press, or?" "Depends on the execution." "But between us? He thinks you're about to become a star. No pressure, right?" That night, I was alone in the venue, checking lighting levels, music timing, and flow paths, just like I always did. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "I remember when you used to do this at age 12. I turned. It was Ryan Callahan, my grandfather's old lawyer. Stoic, gray-haired, and loyal to a fault. "Ryan," I said slowly, "what are you doing here?" He held up a sealed envelope. "This is for you, from your grandfather. He had it delivered to my firm under one condition, that I give it to you if Callahan & Company underwent leadership changes, and if you, in his words, Prove you can succeed without them. My chest tightened. I took the envelope with shaking hands. Ryan tipped his hat. You did good, Mia. Your grandmother would be proud. I waited until I got home to open it. Inside was a notarized legal document, an amendment to the Callahan Family Trust and Company will. In the event that Mia Callahan is removed from her position without due cause and demonstrates a proven record of independent business success within the events industry, she shall be granted a 51% controlling stake in Callahan & Company's undistributed equity. I reread the sentence 4 times. Then I laughed. Then I cried. Then I called Bradley. You're kidding, he said when I read it aloud. I'm not. This changes everything. No, I whispered. It reveals everything. The next morning, I sat in a conference room at Ryan's firm, staring down Evelyn, Uncle Derek, and Claire. Ryan read the clause aloud, voice calm and cold. Per Thomas Callahan's amendment, Ms. Mia Callahan now holds legal claim to majority equity in Callahan & Company, should she choose to assert it. Uncle Derek went pale. Claire blinked like she couldn't understand English. Evelyn's voice was sharp. This is a manipulation. No, Ryan replied. This is protection. Your father knew how you operated. I leaned forward, voice even. I don't want to destroy the company. I want it done right, with integrity, like Grandma intended. Claire finally spoke. You're bluffing. I opened my laptop, pulled up Blue Ivy's projections, and turned the screen toward them. No, I said. I'm winning. The room was silent. The kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from shock. I sat across the polished oak table, watching as Evelyn's face morphed from disbelief to something I hadn't seen in years. Uncertainty. Ryan folded the amendment back into its envelope. The clause is legally binding. Your late father made sure of that. Uncle Derek stared at his folded hands. Claire was frozen, lips parted like she still didn't get it. I don't want to destroy the company, I said calmly. But I will not let it continue like this. Not under a name that meant everything to Grandma. You can't do this, Claire finally muttered. I already did, I said, sliding a folder across the table. That's a draft of the transition terms. You're welcome to review it with your lawyers. Evelyn's voice came out low, tight. You're throwing away your family. No, I said. You threw me away. I'm just returning the favor with paperwork. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal motions, board meetings, and media speculation. But I stayed focused. Numbers don't lie. Blue Ivy had surpassed Callahan & Company in revenue, client satisfaction, and brand visibility. Our Instagram engagement was triple theirs. Our vendor loyalty, through the roof. Public sympathy was on my side. The narrative wasn't rebellious daughter takes down family empire. It was daughter rebuilds legacy with integrity. Chum, Southern Business Weekly, ran a headline that made Bradley nearly spit out his coffee. The real Callahan. Why Mia is the future of events in the South. And the quote they pulled from me? You can't build loyalty with hashtags. You build it by showing up, listening, and keeping your word. Eventually, Evelyn and Derek relented. Claire refused to sign anything. She stormed out during one of the board calls, swearing she'd launch her own firm. Last I heard, her Instagram was deactivated after a string of negative reviews. I didn't gloat. I just moved forward. We finalized the merger on a rainy Thursday in March. Callahan & Company would be absorbed into Blue Ivy Events. I would assume full executive control. The name Callahan would remain on certain legacy contracts, but the vision, the culture, and the team would be mine. Evelyn took an extended sabbatical. Uncle Derek resigned. I didn't attend the farewell dinner they hosted for themselves, but I sent flowers, roses with thorns. 6 months later, I stood in my new office, flooded with light, walls lined with framed client thank you notes, and a single silver plaque that read, "Legacy isn't given. It's earned." I looked out the window as our team loaded up for the biggest event of the year, a gala for a national tech firm that had begged to work with us after their CEO's daughter attended the Jensen affair. Bradley walked in holding 2 lattes. "Guess what?" I turned, smiling. "Tell me." "We just crossed 1 million followers on socials, and guess what else?" I raised an eyebrow. Claire tried to copy our winter design package. The client forwarded her mood board. It was embarrassing. I laughed. Let her try. He leaned against the doorway. You ever think we'd get here? All the time, I said. That was never the question. He handed me a latte and raised his cup. To the one who earned it. I raised mine to meet his. To Grandma. Later that evening, I stopped by my parents' old house. It had been vacant since Evelyn moved out, and I hadn't been there in months. I walked through the empty halls. The kitchen still smelled faintly of lemon polish. The walls still had outlines of the framed family photos that once hung there. In the back room, my grandmother's office, I opened the drawer where she used to keep her personal notes. Tucked inside, untouched, was an old photo of the two of us. I was 9, beaming, holding a clipboard almost as big as me. She had one hand on my shoulder and a spark in her eye. I turned the photo over. In her handwriting, "You were born to lead, Mia. Don't forget it." On the night of our first Blue Ivy X Callahan Gala, I stood backstage in a velvet gown, headset in one ear, clipboard in hand. My team moved like clockwork. Every flower was placed perfectly. Every light hit just right. Mr. Jensen approached me quietly. You pulled it off. I smiled. We always do. He looked around the room, nodding in approval. Your grandmother would be proud. That line still made my chest tighten. Thanks, I said. I hope so. Don't hope, he said, raising a glass. No. The music swelled. The lights dimmed. And as the room filled with applause, laughter, and the clink of champagne flutes, I realized something. This wasn't revenge. This was restoration. And for the first time since they fired me, I felt whole again.